Hello and welcome back to the Podcasting Problem Solver. I'm Leah Bryant, your podcast growth strategist and coach, here to help you make podcasting way less complicated and more aligned with your business. Today, I'm joined by someone who knows a thing or two about time, but not in the sci-fi Doctor Who sense, but in the how the heck do I manage all the things sense. I've got the amazing Kirsty Knight here with me, and we're going to talk about the intersection of time management and podcasting. Basically, how you can stop feeling like your podcast is eating your calendar alive and instead make it work for you. But first, let me introduce her. Kirsty is a master certified business and life coach who specializes in helping ambitious moms with six-figure plus business goals to better leverage, manage, and use their time so their business fits within school hours only. She also has a fantastic podcast called Time and Productivity for Mums in Business that's available on all podcast platforms and will be linked below. I personally have gained so many productivity tips from her show and know you will too. Kirsty, welcome. I am so excited for our conversation, especially as we are heading into the holiday season and life gets, oh my goodness, extra busy.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm so super excited to be here. Hopefully I'll be able to give you some value for your listeners.
I know you will, because when I was thinking about and planning out the rest of the year for podcast content, I was like, who do I know? Oh, yes, Kirsty. She is amazing with time management. And I feel like this is something that podcasters struggle with so much, like finding the time to plan the content and record and do all the things. So this is actually a great way to lead into the first thing I want to start with, which is what's your personal relationship with time and content creation? Because I think a lot of podcasters assume that time is just this enemy that they have to fight against. But I know, and I bet I'm going to say that I know that you have a different perspective on that.
Right. All right. My perspective on that. I mean, I actually have a pretty good relationship with time and creating content, as I should have, I suppose. That's what I do. I mean, I prioritize content creation. So that's one thing. I think the things that we don't make time for are the things that don't get done.
Yes.
And we make time for things that we prioritize. And so if you're not prioritizing it, I think it will always feel like you are out of time and you're short on time and time is the enemy. And it's purely because you haven't decided that this is important and I'm going to make time for it. And that applies to all things in life. My other half, notoriously bad at saying he hasn't got enough time. He does it all the time. And I can't coach him. I've tried. And I can see that he doesn't quite get the concept that your tasks, if you like, and all the things that you do will just expand to fill the time available. So in order to fit more things in, you have to be so intentional with your time. You have to make time for it. If you don't make time for it, then other things are just going to absorb that time. Like that is just how it works. And so I think he just doesn't quite get that if you want this thing to happen, you have to make time for it, which does mean squeezing out other things, being very intentional with how you use your time, being aware of where your time is going and being sucked up. So that's the first thing I would say is really, are you prioritizing content for your business and for your podcast? And then the second thing is, are you enjoying the content creation process? Because once again, you make time for things that you enjoy. And if you're not enjoying it, if you're telling yourself, ugh, I have to do this, rather than I'm choosing to do this, or this is actually great for business, or I can do this in a way that feels good to me, it's going to be really hard for you to actually make the time, find the time and do it. Because it's like, you know, you're pushing a boulder up a hill. You're just making life so much harder for yourself when you're telling yourself, I don't want to be doing this. I don't enjoy this. And I think I have a good relationship with it because I prioritize it for one. Like I know it's important. It needs to get done. And then I actually enjoy content creation. And I wouldn't say that about all of the things that I do for marketing, but particularly for podcasts, because for me, my podcast is a chance for me to deliver sort of mini trainings and workshop style things and things that I can really think about and noodle on and share and talk about versus I find it very frustrating creating very short clips on Instagram and things that aren't really that meaty. I like doing things thoroughly. And so I often find it very frustrating when I've done a really good reel and then I'm like, oh my God, it's not uploading because it's longer than the 90 seconds or whatever it is.
Right.
And the podcast is like this beautiful avenue where actually you can properly dive into something and make it as short or as long as you like. And I think that's part of it, is I enjoy creating it because I see it. I can make it what I want and I can do it thoroughly. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing I will share is that I didn't always love creating my podcast content, and I didn't have that great a relationship before. And that's because I was making myself do it in a way that didn't feel good to me. And so what I was doing is I was sitting down at my desk and I was coming up with the idea there and then painstakingly trying to type it all out, like a word for word script, exactly how I was going to say it. And I was editing as I was writing. And if you're a writer, if you've ever done any writing training or spoken to an author, you know that you really should separate out the writing and the editing part. And I was kind of combining them and rereading over a sentence and then tweaking it. And it just made the whole process about 10 times longer. And so it would take me about 3.5 hours to write out a podcast.
Right.
And it was sucking my time. And it was very painful. And perfectionism was creeping in. And I was stuck at my desk and it wasn't good. It just didn't feel good to me. So I found it hard then. And now I have a much better relationship because of how I've changed the system of how I create. And that is that I realize that I'm very creative when I'm out walking the dog. Like, it's something about me walking, my blood flowing to my brain. I'm able to think of tons of ideas when I'm out on a walk. So what I will often do is literally be like, right, I need to come up with 10 podcast ideas, and I will just take that idea with me on a dog walk. And before I've even got to the farm gate, I've come up with 10 to 15 podcast ideas.
I love that.
And then I'll actually carry on. I'll be like, right, I'm going to take one of these and I'm just going to flesh it out on my dog walk. And so I'll be walking and I'll be talking to myself. People think I'm crazy. It's all fine. and sometimes I'll record straight into my phone, just a draft. And as I'm doing that, it's almost like I'm teaching it. I'm working out, I'm ironing out the kinks in my brain. I'm like, oh, okay, actually, I should also mention this. And I've just thought of this thing that I also want to talk about. And so then I will actually get it to transcribe into a Google document as I'm going. So it's not even a voice note. I'm like recording it directly into a Google Doc.
Uh-huh.
So I'm doing that as I'm going. And then it will literally take me 10 minutes to write an episode that way. And when I get back then, I can choose to either pretty much read it word for word if I wanted to. If I've left it a decent period of time where I've forgotten what I was talking about, I might do that. Or I can just hit record and do it much more sort of, ad lib as I'm talking. And because I've already gone through it once or twice on my dog walk, it feels much more fluid. And that whole process, so like the 2 minutes on the dog walk to come up with an idea, the 10 minutes to sort of voice it out as I'm walking, maybe another 10 minutes to go through it, and then 10 minutes to record or 20 minutes to record. The whole process is done within an hour.
That's amazing.
That's pretty much how it works now. And that's how I've managed to make it work for me. And then the last thing I'll just add before we go on is that in terms of if I have other ideas come out of my standard work day or my standard coaching calls or whatever, I will capture them there and then. I'll be like, oh, I should talk about this on the podcast. And there and then, while it's fresh, I will write down the idea and then I'll just flesh out the outline. And because it's fresh, it takes me 5 minutes to do instead of me writing an idea down and then leaving it 2 weeks and then completely forgetting what we talked about in that coaching session. I was like, oh, I had something to talk about with Johanna on the podcast and I can't remember what it was. If I've actually done the outline, it's so easy for me to then go in. Once again, I'll just take the outline on a dog walk. I'll talk about it, I'll record, I'll come back and then I'll record it finished. And that's actually how I've properly nailed making time for it, enjoying it and making it easy for myself.
Oh my gosh. If you're not taking notes, please stop now what you're doing. Get pen and paper or your voice note or whatever. And please take notes because I want to mention 2 key things that is super important. Well, it's all important, but these 2 things stuck out to me most. One is the mindset shift of, oh, I have to do this, to, oh, I get to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I love that so much because you're right. When you have a positive mindset of you're getting to do something and you're excited about it, of course you make time to do that. But if it's one of those, oh gosh, I've got to do the podcast and you're waiting till the last minute and you're scrambling and, well, A, you're going to be stressed out to do it. And then B, it's not going to sound that great because you're going to hear all of that in your voice. So good. And then the second thing is that if you noticed her setup for her content in general, is that she's not doing this the day before that she needs to record. She's giving herself this time so that she can flesh out the ideas. She can walk through the outlines. She can make changes as she needs to. And so like giving herself that time and being intentional, something else Tiasha mentioned, in her schedule and being able to do this is setting her up for the success of being able to create great content. And I think that's so, so important. And I'm so grateful that you brought that up. So, so good. So I want to specifically like zoom in on the podcast itself. When you plan your content for your podcast, right now you are 2 episodes a month. Do you plan both of those at the same time, or are those separately? I would love to know how you do that. And then if an entrepreneur or a small business owner is wearing all the hats like you and I both are, like if there's any recommendation other than the gems that you just dropped outside of that you would recommend for them when they are trying to like plan out their content, whether that be like once a month or maybe it's a quarter. I would love to know your thoughts on that.
Okay. So I would, and I don't know if anyone's ever shared this, but I would, particularly if your listeners are female, I would pay attention to your cycle.
Oh my goodness. Genius.
Which sounds a bit out there, but you know for you how you function in your cycle. So like a monthly cycle, basically. Because men don't have this. They have a 24-hour cycle. Women do not. So this is where a lot of the planning falls down, where we're trying to plan, the same day, the same 24 hours, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I mean, it doesn't work usually because we're also juggling kids and other things and they have different activities and all the rest of it. But even if we were trying to just recreate the same, do this kind of work at this time and all the rest of it, it just doesn't work for a woman the same that it does a man. Like they get the slump in the afternoon after lunch, but we get the slump for a whole week at the end or, whatever. But also at the beginning of the cycle or wherever it is for you, if you start to pay attention, there are different stages in your cycle where you're more sociable, where you're more energized, where you're more outgoing, where you're more creative, where you're more positive. Like there's a whole week where you'll feel like, what's even the point of me doing my business? And everything's terrible and I don't want to be here. I just want to lie in bed and watch Netflix. And then there'll be a week where you'll be like, I'm on fire. I have so many ideas. I'm so productive. And I think that if you can capitalize on that is my main tip, really. It's just like I said, work with your brain. Like my brain did not work well with me sat in a chair trying to force myself to type out a podcast. But when I go for a dog walk, I can create like 10. If I go for a long enough dog walk, I can create, a whole series. I actually did do, this is a while back, but I did do a 31 episode series. It was one a day for 31 days.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
That is how I managed to do that and not be perfectionistic about it, was basically every single day go out on a dog walk, create the episode, and then the next day do the same thing, and did that for 31 days. But essentially, you have to learn how your brain works, but also learn how your body works. And when you're in a slump and tired and can't be asked, it's very hard for you to come up with content. And so if you are leaving it literally 2 days before you're submitting to Leah to create, if that does not luckily fall within that period of time where you're feeling energized and creative, then it is going to be harder for you to come up with the content and harder for you to make the time to record it. And so, I mean, I don't strictly plan it into my schedule as in like, great, this first Monday of the month, this is when I do all my podcasts. I actually don't do that. I probably would have done before I had a baby, but yeah, a 1-year-old or so. Now I'm much more fluid with my schedule, and that's okay. But what works for me is if I know, okay, I have this general sense at the beginning of the month, like, oh, I need to come up with some podcast episodes. I try to get a few done and so that I'm a few ahead. But, life happens and I will catch up. And then I'm like, oh, I need to get some podcasts done soon so that you can have some more. And so I try to do it. I try to capitalize on that energy. So as soon as I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm super creative, I'm coming up with all these ideas, that's the time. It doesn't even matter where it falls on the calendar. It's like, rather than me just do one and then forget about it for a month, I'm going to make the most of the fact that I am super creative. I've just come up with 10 podcast ideas or 4 podcast ideas. Can I flesh out the outlines? And usually if you do it in that moment where you've thought of 4, you will be able to flesh out 4 outlines like that in a couple of minutes and it's done. Then I take it on a dog walk and I would just literally do my outlines and flesh it out a bit more as I was going. And I think that is the best tip that I can give, is really work with your cycle, pay attention to where you are most creative. Or say you've had coaching calls or you've worked with customers and clients and they get stories and they get ideas. Take down those ideas and flesh them out while they're fresh so that you have one ready to go. And if you can prioritize, I've got this fleshed out outline, I might as well try and record it now. Do that, because it's far better doing that than leaving it go stale and have to get yourself back into the momentum of recording it and refreshing, rereading through. Like, that's generally how you will save time always, is just doing things when they're fresh. It's a little bit like, cleaning your plates after dinner. If you leave them till the next day, everything's stuck on. It takes twice as long. Same applies with your brain. Things are sticking in your brain. We don't want to leave it too long. So that's the main thing. Don't leave it to the last minute. See if you can batch a few. Even if it's just batch writing them, you don't necessarily have to record them, because the recording, I think, is not that difficult. As long as, if you can allocate 30 minutes before it's due, then do it. I actually don't batch record because I have voice issues. So I don't batch record, but I do batch create, at least the outlines, the ideas.
I love that so much. Seriously, because I have not really correlated my cycle with my, oh my gosh, the world is amazing and I'm so awesome and this is great. I have all these ideas. Like, I haven't put the two together, but now I have. And it makes sense because I do sit down like every month and I'm like, oh, I am feeling great this week. So I'm going to go through and I will time block my schedule to where, like, on Mondays, I'm going to script out like 4 different episodes. And then Tuesday, maybe I'll record 2. And then like Wednesday, I will either edit those 2 and also like record the next 2, right? Kind of like divvy it up amongst that time. So that way, I don't sit down all at one time and record 2 or 4 or however many, because sometimes not only your voice, but you'll get tired because you're just sitting there recording. So just like splitting that up and over the time, that was so, so good. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's amazing. And like, I feel like that is so helpful because when you're able to capitalize on your energy, whether that be your cycle or whatever else is going on, like it's just going to make things so much better as far as like the content, but then recording too. So making sure that to know that batching is not like a magic fix, and B, I have to be strategic with my time, and that it only is going to work if you build it into your systems, right? And this goes with everything, not just podcasting, with everything, I think. So like now I'll block a couple hours, like I was saying before, and record a couple episodes and then continue with my schedule. And then that way it's more sustainable and not like a marathon that leaves me fried, right?
I love that. Yeah. Because I think the idea of like batching, 20 is great,
right,
or 10 or 5 or even 4. Yeah. But in reality, my voice would definitely be gone and it becomes an ordeal then. Whereas maybe batch recording 2, you still feel high vibe and productive and like you're ahead of the game. And so it comes across. And then leave some space to record the others when you've got a bit more time. I think it's just capitalizing on the ideas and the writing is the most important part, because those are the things that usually take the most effort and most brain power to do. And then the recording is just, you just want to slot it in where your voice sounds good and where you're feeling good enough to record it.
Yes. And if you do want to record, let's say, more than 2 episodes in a day, that's fine. But what I always recommend is that, you have lots of hydration, water with lemon, all the things, right? But then you also get up after every episode and move around, because that gets your brain going, that gets your blood pumping, that gets all the things, right? So that way you're not just like, oh, I'm sitting here and I'm starting to get like my energy is draining. Like I'm just up, do some jumping jacks, whatever, right? And then that way it just sets you up for success. I love it.
Yeah.
So I love talking about the don'ts just as much as I do the do's, right? Because we want to help people correct mindsets and all the things. But what's one thing that you would recommend not doing when you're trying to, like, quote unquote, make time for your podcast?
This is an easy one for me. I would say don't sacrifice sleep.
Oh, good one.
I think sometimes it's tempting, particularly for me. I'm notoriously bad at this. Because also, I enjoy my business. I enjoy working.
Right.
I get dopamine hits from working and being productive, and I like what I do. I love my clients. And so I could keep working later. And also because I have very limited hours at the minute, because my baby is at home and I mostly look after her on my own. I have a little bit, maybe 10 hours a week of childcare. And so I have to work in the cracks of my time really for my business. And so it's tempting when she goes to bed, and she goes to bed late, which doesn't help. But when she goes to bed like 9, to sit down and do a few hours. And sometimes I will do an hour or 2. But if I ever stretch it beyond that, just to get, more done, I always suffer the next day. And when I say suffer, I don't just mean, health-wise and I'm tired. I mean, I do get run down almost instantly. But I also, my creativity plummets, my problem-solving abilities plummet, my resilience and my emotional regulation skills plummet, basically, which makes everything harder. It makes parenting harder then, because when things aren't going great, then you start to feel more stressed. You're more overwhelmed if you start bickering with your other half more, all of those things, because you're not as resilient, because you've got too much cortisol in your system and you just haven't slept enough. So I would strongly advise that you don't make a habit of it. No one's perfect, and occasionally you're going to have to stay up a bit later to meet the deadline. That's just reality, and that's okay. But don't rely on that as the main way to make time for your business, because it's just not sustainable, because eventually you will start to resent your business, resent your clients, resent your customers, resent the fact that you're having to do that. And also it's going to be at the cost of your health and your relationships and all the other things. And so that's the one thing that I'd say, don't do that. Make it a one-off.
It's so true, because I'm a lot like you. I love my business. I love working in my business and on my business and the client work and all the things. But I've also noticed that if I don't also prioritize myself in that mix, that I will be a little shorter the next day, and not intentionally, right? Or I will be more tired. I think that's really great, because I feel like when you're also not prioritizing yourself or not properly managing your time, that it can become more stressful. And then when you are stressed, it just makes not just your business, but everything in life not enjoyable. And we don't want that, because at the end of the day, it's not about making more time. It's about being more strategic with your time and making your time better.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's very easy to fall into the trap. And I certainly did this at the beginning of productivity. When I'm focusing on, greater productivity, the outcome is more things done. It's very easy to fall into that trap versus how can I get more done, but in less time? So I'm, reclaiming my time. I'm getting my time back for me and for my family and for my health and all of these other things. It's not that we just want to fit more in. I think my mindset originally was just, how can I fit more in? Until I was working, 17-hour days. And that's not the approach we want to be taking. It's really, how can I better leverage my time, better manage my time, better use my time to get the same results or better results in fewer hours. And that's where we want to be focused on. And productivity is one part of that. But yeah, in my programs, it's literally one module. And then the rest is really leveraging your time and streamlining your business and getting time back from time sucks, and being more strategic with your time, and then being better at boundarying your time off. And they all go together.
It sure does, especially that boundary piece. Oh my goodness. Yes. So we're going to take it to the honesty minute, because I know I have, and I'm sure everyone at some point does, they fall off track, right? Whether it's our kids get sick, or we have to travel, or life is just lifing, because it does. When we least want it to or expect it to. So how do you reset things when they don't go according to plan?
Okay, so I'm human too. And so even though I teach this as well, it's even more, I have to hold my hand up. I mean, yeah, there are podcasts, that you've sent to me, and then I'm like, oh God, I have not uploaded this on time. Oops, I missed my own deadline here. Things happen. The main thing that I do to get back on track is not sweat it. Don't sweat it. Literally, don't judge myself.
Yes.
I have so much compassion for what I'm juggling, for who I am, for my efforts, for what I'm trying to achieve, for all of the things. I just recalibrate, and then I just go again. I don't even spend any minutes having a pity party or feeling sorry for myself or beating myself up. I don't allow that at all. It's just oops, we missed that. Okay, let's fix it. And then I get curious, okay, why did that happen? Because sometimes it can be a very simple thing. It's a little bit if you miss your mother's birthday once, you don't want to do it again. And so it's okay, maybe I can put a reminder in my calendar to order the flowers in time or something. The same is true for podcasting and all the things. It's how did I miss this? Oh, I just didn't give myself enough of a buffer, maybe because the kids were sick. And so, it is what it is. But also knowing that even with the best systems in place, you're still going to be fallible and things are still going to go off track. And it's just a game of getting back on track.
Oh my gosh. Give yourself grace. Be patient. And I think what I love the most about what you just said is asking why that happened and kind of like reverse engineering. Because when you reverse engineer and maybe kind of like think through like your time and what happened and what could have helped to make it better, it kind of also will prepare you for the next time if something similar or something else happens. So maybe you could be ahead of the game, I guess, more or less. And it's inevitable. Life is going to throw us curveballs. And for me, it was maybe when Ezra was sick one time, and literally my whole schedule was flipped upside down, because as moms, we are attentive and need to be there. And well, that takes out of all the rest you had planned for the day. And I distinctly remember this one day where I had all these things planned, and I am a planner. And this is a great reminder for me because I get very anxious when my things don't go to plan. But I had the whole day planned out. But then life had happened. Ezra got sick. And then it was like doctor visits and going here and going there and doing all the things, right? And the extra snuggles and making sure the thing was okay. And so like what I had quote unquote planned for the day didn't happen. And me now, I'm okay. But past me, it derailed me. Like I was like, oh my gosh, the day is done. I felt behind and stressed out and all the things and trying to cram everything in, and it just set the rest of my week completely out of whack. But then after that, I really sat down and thought about it and all the things. And then I also created my seamless podcast framework where the first step in the strategy is the strategy, right? And so it gave me clarity, not on just like when it needed to be recorded, but being able to bring in the execution, which is the next piece, right? Meant that they could shift things without starting from scratch, because that's always a great thing to do, is not having to start all over from scratch. And then because of the momentum, missing a day didn't mean losing all that progress. So it was still a way to be messy in the moment, which is totally fine. And instead of spiraling, I could reset and keep moving, which is really the goal at the end of the day.
Yeah, love that so much. Yeah, don't beat yourself up. Don't be too attached to the plan. I think that it helps to just have that as a mindset initially. Like, even if you love to plan, and it's almost like you're perfectionistic with your planning.
Yeah.
And so we have to like release the reins a little bit so that if life does happen, we've got some movement. A little bit like, if you're on a diet and then you eat one cookie, you're like, right, that's it. That's the whole diet ruined.
Give me
we
the
throw
pack.
it out.
Yes.
Right. We eat the whole bag, and then the rest of the week we're like, we'll start again on Monday. And it's like, we want to get out of that mentality and be like, okay, I mean, even if you binged, even if you had like 6 cookies, you can still be like, okay, like, why did I do that?
Yes.
Okay, what's the plan for tomorrow so that we don't do that again? And let's just pick up again tomorrow. It's such a nicer way to be kinder to yourself, and it's less all or nothing. It's less catastrophic thinking, and it just gets you back on track sooner. It's more smooth, and you can roll with the punches a little bit easier.
I love that so much because it's so true. When you are able to take those, I am a perfectionist with my planning. I felt so called out, but it's so needed. It's so good. Because I think that if you can be a planner, but then have the liberty to be able to be flexible within that planning.
Yeah.
Now, on the opposite foot, I know that there are podcasts out there. I have clients who are like this, and this is not a negative to those clients because I love them, that they are not planners to save their soul. And I hear this all the time. I'm just not a planner, Leah.
Right.
And at that point, I'm like, but why? But I would love to know what you would say to someone who doesn't feel like, quote unquote, planning is for them.
Okay. So I would like come at it from 2 angles. One is that working for you? And if it's not, is there a way to make it so that it works? Like, literally, is there a way to make your spontaneity part of your strategy and it work for you? And if there is a way to do that, then let's explore that. Like, what systems can we come up with that actually make it so that, so it's, let's say you have your creative week, and instead of coming out with just 4, you come out with 12 ideas or 20 ideas. And, can we batch create, a huge amount of podcast episodes so that then you could potentially, you've got a long enough buffer that if you don't feel like doing it or you didn't plan it in, it's done already. So we sort of want to look at like, how could we possibly do that? It might also be, can I hire somebody to do the parts that I don't like so that I just, do the parts that I'm needed for? And that's one way of sort of making that system work for you if you're not a planner and you don't want to be fixed to a schedule. That's like the first angle. The second approach is really, if it's not working for you and you can't seem to find a way and you want to be a planner, you have to find the desire. You have to, first of all, desire to be different than how you are. And then you have to recognize that your identity is fluid.
Yes.
Everything you choose to believe about yourself is a choice. And knowing that is so powerful, because if you just decide, right, I am going to become a planner, I actually want to be a planner. I use this with my clients in my School Hours Only framework, which is really the identity piece of, fitting your business into fewer hours. But the same thing applies here. It's really, you have to have the desire. You have to then decide like, okay, I'm going to be that person. And then you have to go out of your way to act like that person, to start to create the evidence that, oh, this is the new me. And I used this with myself when it came to actually losing weight. So this year, so I had my baby the year before, and I was just sort of not shifting the last few pounds. And I had been working with a coach previous to this, and I was going to reach back out to her to be like, okay, I need this, weight loss coaching or whatever for this last little bit. And I was really reluctant to, because I was like, oh God, I don't want to give up chocolate. Like, I'm such a sweet person. Like, my belief about myself is like, I'm a sweets person. Like, I'm a dessert person.
Right.
I'm a dessert girl rather than I'm a savory girl. And I had loads of identity-led thoughts about myself, like, I have to have something sweet to finish a meal. I love chocolate, blah, blah, blah. All of these things that I really believe to be true about me. I also had a belief that I didn't have the willpower. I couldn't have chocolate in the house and not eat it. That was another belief that I had. And I just got curious with myself, like, what if this actually wasn't true about me? Like, what if this wasn't the identity that I chose to live into anymore? And I just chose to believe that I was a completely different version of myself, who is actually a savory girl, who doesn't need something sweet to finish her meal, who can have chocolate in the house without eating it immediately. And so I just experimented. I just started playing. I created the desire. Okay, I wanted to see if I can be that person. I decided I'm going to try to be that person. And then I started acting like that person. And I cannot tell you, the shift that I had was absolutely profound. So we're like 9 months in. I have not had a dessert, cake, biscuit, sweet, anything since January the 1st. And it's not even been hard. And this is the thing. I'm not doing it through feeling deprived, and I'm not doing it through sheer willpower and like resistance to doing the thing. I've simply changed my beliefs about who I am as a person. And I just got to the point where I was like, actually, I believe this is true about myself. And what is true about myself is that I can totally have cakes and chocolate in the cupboard and I don't want to eat them. And that, it just blew my mind, because that never would have been a possibility before. But the same is true for planning. If you can choose to become a planner, if you really want to be a planner, but you have to have the desire, and you have to really question, why am I telling myself I'm not a planner? Like, what is this resistance that comes up when I say, ugh, planning? And it may be that there's some deeper stuff there that you have to uproot. Like, maybe you had a very disciplined childhood and your parents were very strict with your schedule, and now it's like your form of rebelling against it.
Oh.
I actually did a podcast on I think it was something like the 4 different resistances to planning.
I'll link it.
Basically, that started diving into those kinds of things, because that also covers like, what do you actually tell yourself about planning? Because it's similar to the content creation. If you're telling yourself like, I hate planning and planning's boring, or there's no point in planning, or I never stick to it, any of those thoughts, very unhelpful in terms of like making you want to plan, making you believe that it's worth your time planning if you're like, I'm not going to listen to it anyway. So you have to watch what you're telling yourself about the planning. You have to uncover what is the resistance within the planning itself. And then you have to look at like, who am I? What am I believing about myself as an identity?
Because you will believe what you tell yourself. And if you tell yourself something, your brain, your body, everything is going to believe it. But you can rewire and reshape that thinking. A year of proof that if you rewire your thinking and change that mindset and like, I am a planner.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to be a perfectionist planner like me. You don't have to do that.
You can be a flexible planner.
You could be a flexible. Yes, because you don't have to do the color-coded spreadsheets and the million sticky notes. Don't be like
not.
me. But what you can do is have as simple as having a content anchor for the month, let's say, right? And then letting those details like flex around topics or the theme that you want to talk about that month. It doesn't have to be set in stone. And by telling yourself on the positive too, like just being positive, like I'm a planner. I'm planning out XYZ. I love that so much. So good. And congratulations on your weight loss success. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So good. Okay. I'd love for you to share a couple quick wins. Like what's an easy way someone could plan, let's say, a month of podcast content or any content really, with spending school-only hours in front of a blank Google Doc? I know that you've mentioned your tactics before, but I would love to hear some quick wins that you want to share.
If they were planning out like a month of podcast content, what I would suggest is to write down some questions first off that get your brain just answering the questions basically. So I would write down things like, what are the things that I teach? What does my person, my client, my customer need to know in order to take them from where they are to where they want to be? What are all the beliefs that they have in their heads that you disagree with? What are the beliefs that they need in order to create the result that they want? Maybe if you're a coach, some of the coaching tools that you use. What are stories that you have that relate to, your clients or your customers and the things that you've helped them with? Or if it's a product-based business, similar kind of thing. Like, what are the kinds of things that your customers ask you questions about? What are the kinds of things that your customers say to you and share with you? Ask yourself all of those things. Mistakes that you've made, lessons you've learned, knowledge that you want to pass on, wisdom, all of those things. I think if you actually wrote down all of those as questions and then ask yourself on a dog walk, if you don't have a dog, go borrow a dog.
Go borrow a dog. I love that.
go for a walk and just answer and see if you can get your brain to just noodle on that. I reckon you would easily come up with sort of 30 ideas. And for a podcast, you're only looking for 4 a month. If you're doing it weekly, 2 if you're doing it bi-weekly or whatever. And then the other thing I would say is, if you're like, oh God, that's still a lot, I would try to create a template that you can go off of, because I think that if you have a template of sorts, either for like, how do I come up with my content ideas? So I've mentioned mine already, is that literally I will have a coaching call. If I coach on 3 or 4 different topics, what I started doing was at the end of that call, just giving myself a little summary as to like, right, I coached Jenny on this, I coached Johanna on this, and then just flesh out the summary. And usually my mindset is if it's helpful for them, then it should be helpful for other people. And so that's how I can easily pull out ideas, but it's sort of like a system for where I get my ideas from. So maybe a template like that, even if it's a template around, maybe the symptoms that this person has or the impact that they're currently struggling with, the problems that they have, what they've tried already, why that hasn't worked. Like, you could literally write that out as your template and then take a different person as they come through the door, and you've got a podcast episode based on that. I think a template and then just brainstorming lots of questions to get you to pull your wisdom out of you is a great way to start to come up with the ideas. And then, take it on a dog walk to flesh it out further. And that's how I would go about creating like a month of content. I will say you could also use ChatGPT or whatever AI you think to flesh out. You could obviously put in like, this is my topic, this is what I coach on, or this is who I help, this is my product, give me tons of ideas. And I have started using it more and more for different things. But to be honest, my podcast is the one thing that I have like so many ideas. I was so worried when I first started my podcast that I wouldn't have enough stuff to talk about. And I'm like 70 episodes in or something. And I have plenty to say.
And 2, what I like to coach clients to is that look at your business goals first, right? But then, like you said, what is coming up in your coaching calls or emails or whatever else, right? What are they struggling with? And then 2, what questions are coming into your DMs? What are people reaching out to you for? What questions do they have? And then also, like on your discovery calls, is there something that keeps coming up? Is there a theme? Is there a question? Is there, all of that? What is coming up in those calls that you can maybe speak to as well? Because then it serves as like not only you have your content, but then it also serves as, I have an episode that I can send to someone if they have objections or they have questions, right? And you can repurpose all the good things out of it. And then too, like, let's say you're launching a program around the holidays, right? Like Black Friday here in the States. Then in September, let's say your podcast content should be pointing people to and talking about that program that you're launching or that's reopening, right? And then like having a brainstorm session, like you said, on your dog walk, right? And then some batching added with that, then you'll have like clarity for the whole month. And then when you are walking, right, and all those endorphins are going, you're having all the ideas during the special times of the month that works for you, then like you could have like not just a month, but it could be like a lot of different topics for you. So That's so good. I love this. Kirsty, this has been so incredible. I myself have taken away so many golden nuggets and so good. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and making time management feel way less scary for podcasters, and that's including me. I would love for you to share where people can find you, work with you, listen to the podcast, all the things, and your school hours only too program, all of it. So if you want to share, we'd love to hear.
Thank you so much. So my podcast, which you've already mentioned, I think you're going to drop the link below. That is the Time and Productivity for Mums and Moms in Business. It's getting longer and longer. So yeah, go to that. That's on Apple and most places. That's where you're going to get the meatiest stuff from me. I'm also on Facebook at Kirsty Knight Coaching, and Instagram is the same. It's at Kirsty Knight Coaching. That's probably the best way to find me, and you can always reach out if you're struggling. I do offer school hours only strategy calls. So it's not actually only if you have school hours only. It's basically the principles still work if you have a set number of hours. I don't even have school hours. I have less than that at the minute that I'm working with. But if you have a baby, if you have limited amounts of hours to grow your business in, and you are not being that strategic with your time, not leveraging it that well, not managing it that well, not, executing that well in the hours that you've got, and you want to improve upon it. If you have a lofty goal that you want to hit, but you don't want to work more hours, then book one of those free strategy calls with me, and I can talk to you a little bit more about how school hours only can help you. And
that's amazing. And you're amazing. You should go work with Kirsty because she's a genius and it's just so good. She's so good. Her content is so good too. So make sure you listen to her podcast. So here is your action step for today. I want you to pick one thing from today's episode and try it this week. Whether it's blocking an hour for your podcast prep while you're walking, testing a batching day, or simply giving yourself permission to reset when you slip. And don't forget, if you want more strategies like this, make sure you're subscribed to my newsletter. That's where I share weekly tips on podcast growth and sustainability that you won't hear anywhere else. Thank you again, Kirsty, and thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, keep your podcast purposeful, your schedule sane, and your growth seamless.